Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lynn Hayes, and every week I give you all the astrological information that you need to have a great week. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Aries Full Moon, Saturn and Pluto changing direction, and we're going to be talking about Venus moving from Leo into Virgo. So without further ado, let's get started. This video is covering the period between September 28th and October 5th. And on September 29th, Saturn is going to be turning direct. So just to recap, if you've been watching these videos, you'll know that we've had a lot of retrograde planets all through the summer. And now the number of retrogrades is beginning to diminish. So with Saturn, which has been retrograde all summer, turning direct, meaning it will appear to move forward as it normally does instead of retrograde, we're going to be down to only 5 retrograde planets. 5 retrograde planets is still a lot of planets. Anything more than 4 is considered a high number of retrogrades. And when there's a lot of retrograde energy, we tend to be looking back more than looking ahead, looking forward. And we've certainly been seeing that over the summer. We also can feel like all of our energies to try to make something happen are thwarted, and that it's difficult to move in any kind of a forward direction. This is going to start to diminish. Pluto is also going to turn direct on October 5th. And at that point, we'll be down to 4 retrograde planets, which is a little more normal. But Mercury is going to turn retrograde on October 13th, so we won't be able to really relax just yet. With Saturn and Pluto both changing direction, they're both at a standstill in the sky. Saturn and Pluto are the 2 bad boys of astrology, let's face it. Saturn was considered the devil or a dark force before Pluto was discovered. And when Pluto was discovered, he sort of took over that role. Where Saturn is the planet of restriction and limitation and hard work and challenges and bad luck sometimes, Pluto is an outer planet. It's a transformational force. Pluto is associated with destruction and regeneration. I think of Pluto, though, as really being the will of the higher self. Under the influence of Pluto, we have to let go of things that aren't serving us anymore. And of course, this year we had the major cycle of the conjunction from Saturn to Pluto that occurred in January. Those 2 planets have been within 5 degrees since the spring of 2019. There's been a lot of compression, a lot of restriction, a lot of fear, a lot of control. It's been a very difficult time. I don't have to tell you that, but there is an astrological explanation for it. Now, Saturn and Pluto are as close as they're going to get for the next however many years until their next cycle. As they begin to pick up speed, we'll start to see that influence of the conjunction begin to wane. When Saturn is at a stationary point in the sky, as it is right now, as it prepares to change direction, its influence is very strong. So there's going to be a lot of sort of come to Jesus moments. Saturn requires that we face reality. Saturn is not going to really support a lot of fantasy or dreams. Saturn requires that we really face the hard facts of life. And so you may find that this is a prevailing force for you over the week. With Pluto changing direction towards the end of the week on October 5th, the Pluto influence is really more about bringing out the secrets, power struggles, revealing the darker truths. It's a time when some deep and dark scandals may come out. Pluto is going to be stationary for quite some time. Pluto is the slowest mover of the planets that we typically work with in astrology. It's at a standstill right now. It's going to take quite a while before its motion has picked back up to normal. So Pluto and Saturn both are like laser beams in the sky, shining their energies down on us. And that's going to feel a lot like the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, even though the 2 are not really fused. But we're really experiencing both of those energies very strongly. It's going to be one last blast of fear, of drama, of this idea of a reckoning. And of course, this happens in the United States right around the time of the election. I don't want to talk about that now. I will probably be talking about that over the next couple of weeks. But I need to build up some reserves before I can actually face that assignment. Another big planetary event this week is the Aries Full Moon. When we have a full moon in Aries, that means that the moon is in Aries and it's opposite the sun, which is in Libra with the earth in the middle. We're dealing with a polarity here between, to get both my hands in the frame, between Libra and Aries. And with the moon in Aries, the Aries influence is the strongest because it's the full moon. It's the time when the moon is at its ascendancy. The power of the moon to evoke emotions, to connect us more deeply with our soul, to bring out our innermost feelings. And the moon is in the sign of Aries, which is aggression. It's about self-orientation. It's about desire and our personal needs. And these needs are being balanced against the Libran desire for tact and diplomacy and to be polite and to be nice. So we need, with any kind of opposition, which is what we have here, Aries and Libra are opposite. There needs to be an integration. There needs to be a bringing together of these two influences. They need integration. We have to find a way to balance our own needs with our ability to be able to share in relationships. Under this Aries full moon, which really demands action and assertiveness, any imbalance that we have in these areas will be highlighted. This is a very good time to think a little bit more deeply about what it is that you want as an individual, not as part of a couple, not as part of a community, not as a parent, but what is it that I want? That's what Aries is all about. It's the first sign of the zodiac. I like to compare Aries with an infant in the crib. The infant is crying, screaming, I'm hungry, not really worried about what other people are thinking. And this is the Aries archetype. It's about trailblazing. It's about being a pioneer. Those things require some courage. They require the ability to break through obstacles. So under the Aries moon, we're gathering our personal strength. We don't need to be crushed by the burden of Saturn and Pluto. Under the Aries moon, we can create those strong and powerful desires that then turn into intentions, that then turn into reality. There may be some emotional triggers under this full moon because the moon is conjunct Chiron, the planet of wounding and healing. When the moon is conjunct Chiron in any kind of event, we are much more sensitive emotionally. We're much more easily hurt. We're much more aware of our own inner wounds, our feelings of abandonment, our feelings of not being good enough. They're much closer to the surface. At the full moon, of course, the sun is opposite Chiron as the moon is conjunct Chiron. However, in this particular lunation chart, which is the chart of the full moon, the ruler of the moon in Aries, which is Mars, is in a harmonious trine with the ruler of the Libra sun, which is Venus. With the moon's ruler in a trine to the sun's ruler, that really brings these two together, and it makes it much easier to find that integration and to find that balance. This full moon can be a wonderfully evocative time of the unfolding of our personal mission. This is a time when we can really muster all of our reserves and focus that intention very powerfully. And then on October 2nd, Venus will leave the flamboyant sign of Leo for the much more modest sign of Virgo. When Venus moves into Virgo, we have a stronger desire to help others. We want to serve. We seek more humility. Unlike with Venus in Leo, where we really need attention, we need to be valued, we need to be admired. Venus in Virgo reacts to that and instead moves into modesty, moves into humility. While Venus is in Virgo, all of our personal interactions are likely to be more harmonious in a way because Virgo is very uncomfortable with anything that smatters of ego or desire. Virgo really just wants to get things done, basically. So when Venus is in Virgo, we want our relationships to be functional. We want them to work. We might be more prone to criticize others in the name of trying to help them, right? Like when you see a friend, maybe you don't like her haircut, and you go, you know, you would really look better with a different kind of haircut. that person is maybe not going to appreciate that so much, even though you, under Venus and Virgo, are just trying to be helpful. So that's the kind of thing that is less useful when Venus is in Virgo. What's more helpful, though, is being there to help when help is needed and asked for. So now let's talk about the details of the week. When this video is posted Monday morning, 7 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time every week, if I can help it, the moon will be in Aquarius. This is a pretty detached placement for the moon. When the moon is in Aquarius, we tend to have more perspective, we tend to be more reasonable and more rational. The moon is going to move into Pisces on Monday, September 28th at around 11:33 a.m. Eastern Time. Please adjust for your own locality. While the moon is in Pisces, Pisces is a sign of dreaminess, imagination, creativity, spirituality. It's a sign that encourages us to kind of melt away from the details of life and have an experience of transcendent bliss, which sounds wonderful, and it is. Not the best time, though, to get things done. Not the best time for details. However, it is extremely creative. We also on Monday have that wonderful trine that I was talking about that's embedded in the full moon chart between Venus, which is still in Leo at this point, and Mars, which is in Aries. When you have the planet of love and beauty, Venus, harmonizing with the planet of aggression and assertiveness, Mars, that's just a wonderful combination. It's the male and the female. The yin and the yang are coming together to support each other. And all of this under the Pisces moon can bring about some wonderfully creative forces to really help us to do something kind of magical. Then very early in the morning, Eastern Time on Tuesday, 1:11 a.m., Saturn is going to turn direct. I know I talked about Saturn turning direct at the beginning of this video, but I just want to add that Saturn is the teacher. Saturn helps us to create form and structure. With Saturn moving direct, we're going to actually begin to put things into motion that the past few months we've really only been thinking about because we were stuck in lockdown or quarantine or whatever has been going on in our personal life. With Saturn turning direct, appearing to move forward again in its natural flow, then we can begin to participate in the lessons of Saturn. Saturn is a wonderful planet in that under its tutelage, we actually get rewards. The rewards that are given by Saturn when we work hard and we really apply ourselves and we make a plan, those rewards tend to be success in our ventures. And even though Saturn is a hard teacher, over time, we can really benefit from these lessons. So I, for one, am happy to see Saturn turning direct again. While Saturn has been stationary in the sky, Mars, which just turned retrograde about 2 weeks ago or more, has been in a challenging square aspect to Saturn. And for this entire time, for about a month, Mars in the sky in its own sign of Aries, where it's been aggressive, where it's been powerful. The second exact phase of this square occurs on Tuesday, September 29th. So with Mars challenging the authority of Saturn, there could be some reactions, there could be some inflammation. I've been talking about that for weeks now because Mars has been very active in the sky, triggering all the Capricorn planets, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. And as we know, there's been a lot of conflict. I'm afraid that's not going to be ending over this next week. However, there are some influences that can help to soften it, that can help to make it more productive, that can help Mars and Saturn to really come together to energize with Mars and to create a plan and a structure for how these drives and these desires can start to take shape instead of just blowing up with no apparent purpose. Then on Wednesday, September 30th at about 10:47 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon is going to move into Aries. This is going to set the stage for the Aries full moon. When the moon moves from Pisces into Aries, there's a clear shift. Under the influence of Pisces, we have that dreamy kind of mystical feeling. Then the moon moves into Aries and suddenly we have drive, we have desires. We're ready to fight, to take action. We're ready to break down obstacles. In its journey through Aries, the moon is going to align with Chiron. Chiron, the planet of wounding and healing, can be very uncomfortable for the moon, which is so sensitive. When the moon aligns with Chiron, which you may remember it will be in the full moon, there is this emotional sensitivity. We are possibly more reactive. Any wounds, any emotional trauma may be closer to the surface. And then, of course, the Aries full moon takes place on Thursday, October 1st. And since we already talked about that in detail, I'm going to skip on over to Friday, October 2nd, when we have Venus in Virgo at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time. This is when we have the shift from Leo into Virgo, where we are more service-oriented, more humble, more modest, more interested in helping the people around us than in any kind of personal gratification. At 11:12 a.m. Eastern Time, the moon is going to move into Taurus. This again is another big shift. If you watched my video on the basics of astrology, you'll remember that every sign reacts to the one behind it. So the moon moves from dreamy Pisces into Aries, it starts to take action. The moon moves from Pisces into Taurus, it's done with action, it's done with fire and aggression, and all it wants is peace. So when the moon is in the sign of Taurus, we crave comfort, we crave peacefulness, equanimity, a sense of balance, delicious food, material security, we may be counting our money. It can be a lovely time. It's also very important when the moon is in Taurus, of course, to spend time in nature. And even if you live in a city, there's still plants, there's still birds. The more we can connect with nature when the moon is in Taurus, the more we're able to sort of settle into ourselves and use those elemental spirits to provide a nourishing and nurturing experience for us. This is especially true because once the moon moves into Taurus, it will form a harmonious trine, 120-degree angle, to Venus, which is newly in Virgo. And Venus, of course, is the ruler of Taurus. So this is what we call a double whammy for two things that say the same thing. The moon is in Taurus, and the moon is in a trine to Venus. While these are not literally the same thing, the energies are very similar. There's a connection between the heart and soul, which is the moon, and beauty and comfort and nature, which is Venus. So this is really a day to look for comfort and tranquility and peacefulness. It's a wonderful day for any kind of spiritual experience, for meditation, for yoga, for a walk in the woods, anything that will help you to connect with nature and find that peaceful equanimity within yourself will be wonderfully highlighted on Saturday. Then on Sunday, October 4th, we have the change of direction of Pluto, turning direct forward motion again. And with Pluto moving forward, the transformation can begin to happen. At that point, we're down to 4 retrograde planets for a week or so until Mercury changes direction. I'm really looking forward to this Mercury retrograde period. Mercury is in Scorpio, as I talked about last week. Mercury will be in Scorpio for quite some time because it's going to retrograde in Scorpio. So there's a depth of thinking, there's a depth of thought, a depth of analysis. You know, Scorpio is pretty intense. When Mercury is in Scorpio, there's a real love of the details and secrets and mysteries that we can really process very deeply when Mercury is in Scorpio. And with this retrograde period, I feel it's going to be useful for us as we look back and reevaluate what's been happening in our lives for the past 6 months. And I think we're all starting to understand that it's going to be a long time before we get back to anything approaching normal. During this period of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, we can really understand at a much deeper level what's been happening in our own life and what we need to do moving forward. So I feel like this period and the so-called shadow period, which begins, in my view, there's a lot of argument about this, but the so-called shadow period begins really when the movement of Mercury begins to slow down as it prepares to make that station. And at that point, we start to to find it more difficult to move forward. You know, things are starting to stall. And of course, we're in this big retrograde period anyway. As we prepare for this retrograde cycle, it may be useful to look back, maybe take a piece of paper, a notebook, and write down some things that you're ready to let go of. Things that maybe you wouldn't have thought you wanted to let go of, but which you see are really behind you. They're really done. It's time now to let those things go. This period, I feel, has been really a time of destruction of a way of life that was working for many of us, but it really wasn't in harmony with the world at large that we have to fit into. This is really a time to clear out the debris. It's sort of like when you have to clean out the basement. You have to go in there. Maybe there's things you don't really want to get rid of, something your mother gave you, something your first girlfriend might have given you as a gift and you're sentimentally attached, but it doesn't fit anymore. You know, the jeans that I wore 20 years ago that I keep hoping I'll fit into, I probably never will. It's time to get rid of them. I'm a different person now. We are all different people now. And how are we going to move forward? What do we need going forward? That's really the lesson I feel that is coming to us now. So that's probably a really good place to end this video. I want to thank you, as always, for being here with me. Thank you for leaving the comments, letting me know who you are, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.